to my video. This is going to be my thoughts on Young Jedi Adventures Season 2, Episode 8, The Great Gomgourd Quest / A Sticky Situation. Now, the episode is for ages, I'm going to say 7 and up, so will this video be. There will be spoilers for the episode and other Star Wars media leading up to it. And yeah, another good to great episode. Let's dive right in. So, both stories here have a green message as well as, you know, one that is just like, yeah, just good lessons for, in general, you know, how to think about things, feel about things, react to certain things and such, you know, regardless of whether you're dealing with nature or something else. Yeah, for, you know, the show is made in part, you know, a significant chunk of the core audience is going to be 7-year-olds. I really appreciate when shows like this actually really do speak very directly to them in some, like, when Nubs learns there are no Gomgourds and, like, screams like something, you know, horrible has happened. Yeah, that's a very 7-year-old kid who is not going to get to eat something they really want to eat. You know, that, yeah, that, I felt that. Let's see, yeah, the thing about, you know, she thought that the Gomgourds were more important than they were. You know, when you're a kid, you don't have perspective yet. So she, you know, takes these Gomgourds not thinking about, well, they might be food for something in nature, and that is an extremely important, like, we got to get better at living in a way that's more neutral with nature, you know, not destroying and taking. And let's see, yeah, you know, I think that pretty well covers. I thought they did a good job of, like, the birds, you know, in retrospect, it's like, oh, they, you know, okay, maybe you realize it before the kids do, if, you know, if you're not a kid, but whatever. Yeah, you know, they weren't, like, trying to hurt anyone, they just wanted the Gomgourds back, and because at that point in the episode, we think of the Gomgourds as like, no, but they make, you know, Nubs and these others so happy, though, you know. But yeah, I appreciate the tension and excitement of, you know, them trying to maintain the Gomgourds and trying to prevent the Gomgourds from, like, breaking things and such. Kai running on top of one, you know, slapstick has long been part of the Star Wars DNA. I think as long as it's handled well and it doesn't, like, wreck the tone or something. Yeah, I think there's plenty of room for it. I thought it worked. And yeah, you know, they get up, you know, they actually, the droid is almost lost. And they actually end up losing all that stuff they picked, you know, in order to get the Gomgourds. It's this thing of, you know, yeah, what's the word? Something about birds, bees, and bushes, and hands, something like that. If you hand a bird a bush, the bee, yeah, it's something along those lines at least. And yeah, you know, because she's so dedicated to this, you know, the Gomgourd quest, she doesn't stop to think about, wait, this is actually, you know, this is becoming a Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, the let's see. I appreciate the show acknowledging the pure joy it can be to feed birds food. My dad has chickens. Sometimes when he travels, I take care of them. And yeah, there's just nothing quite like seeing a bird just really, really happy about getting food. The So yeah, I appreciate that that's part of the conclusion of the episode. Because they could have just had them like walk away or something, but no, there's like actual fun there. Right, and the almost food fight thing of like several of the Jedi get like food on their face and on their head, stuff like that. That also for 7-year-olds, and not only 7-year-olds, is fun. But yeah, great ending with the no you misunderstand it. Donkuta Day is about using the food that we do have to celebrate with the people we love. Now, does anyone know any people we love? And that brings us nicely into the second half of the episode. And yeah, again, we have this thing of, the animals. It's important. There's the thing about natural habitat, for example. And yeah, Kai's ego yet again getting him into trouble. This thing about, I am the best at capturing creatures, and Liz is like, I taught him everything he knows. Just yeah. I've forgotten more about capturing creatures than you remember. Yeah, the once he's on the ship, because he's struggling to admit that he's scared, because the others are like, it's okay if you're scared, that's not a big deal, but because he refuses to admit, he ends up actually, hitting the button that opens all the cages. I don't want to be Captain Hindsight here, but I think maybe you'll want to have that slightly more secured in the future. What was the droid's name? C? D? A? B? Something early alphabet, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, very, very nicely done on, he has to help capture the spiders because there's only so many of them. A bunch of the other younglings are stuck on the web, which, fair enough, common occurrence. I like Reddit myself. I know there's a lot of garbage on there. I try to avoid that part of the website. But yeah, and Zia and Yoda are not around. So yeah, he has to be part of it, and he in fact has to go at it alone for the really big spider. When he grows up, if he needs like exposure therapy past this episode, Eight-Legged Freaks, I think, is a pretty decent, film. Now, I think that does pretty well. Yeah, they're at the end. Everybody else ends up sticking to it, and he has to capture the king on his own. I do also think they did a really great job on the design of the spiders because, like, there's just enough there that they are creepy, but they're also not, like, nightmare-inducing for the 7-year-olds watching. Like, there's just enough color, and they're not so frequently in darkness. And, like, just detail like the eyes being like this, was it like purple or something, like a color that doesn't inherently instill a lot of fear the way that black and red do, colors that Star Wars does sometimes draw upon. Like, it's not an accident that Darth Maul has so much black and red on him. That is explicitly to make him a very intense presence. And there that it works in part because, it's a human being. It's clearly a human actor, and it makes it easier for us to, handle the scary stuff there. And And no, I'm obviously not saying that he's scary for, like, you know, once you get past a certain age and you've watched a bunch of horror movies or something. I'm talking about for, you know, what was it George Lucas said? He makes the films for 12-year-olds, something like that, you know. Yeah, maybe not 7, but moving on. Yeah, you know, the he manages to get close to the king spider and use the biscuits to help draw it back into the ship. And yeah, they actually managed to get all of them out there. Right, I also appreciate another acknowledgement that clearly the lightsabers are not the same. You know, we're told, oh, the training saber, your training sabers, youngling training sabers, can't cut through steel beams. I mean, spiderweb, especially the Gorman stuff. And, you know, then Zia shows up at the end of the episode, easily cuts through the... So clearly it's not the exact same. It's like a low-intensity laser sword that the kids have. I think that does pretty well cover it. Yeah, I really appreciate the acknowledgement that, you know, Zia says, you know, I am also scared of spiders. You know, being a Jedi is not feeling fear. It's what you do. It's, you know, that defines you. And yeah, you know, everybody feels fear. We just have to learn to not let it, you know, get us into, you know, a bad situation, get us doing something evil, you know. You know, Yoda put it really well. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to voting conservative.